When they're like actively looking for ways to increase your business because they like truly understand it, that's where you're going to get the best bang for your buck. And I think that's where, you get the best creative, you get the best strategy. That's really like where you're getting the best deliverables. I think is where the best agencies have succeeded that way.
This is You Should Talk To, a podcast for busy marketing leaders who are looking for support and tips on getting shit done. In each episode, Daniel Weiner interviews marketing leaders and discusses their experience, successes, and failures around hiring agencies. If you're interested in finding and choosing the right agency partner, then let's jump in.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the You Should Talk To podcast. I am your host, your everything, Daniel Weiner. You Should Talk To pairs brands and marketers for free with vetted agencies because finding great agencies is time consuming and a pain, which we'll get into today. Super excited to be joined by Eric Tessel, who is the VP of Marketing at Door Pro America. Eric, thank you for joining.
Of course, yes. Thanks for having me.
Before we jump right in, tell everybody about Door Pro America.
All right, so Door Pro America is, we focus on garage door installation and repair and maintenance. Main headquarters is in Northern Virginia in Gainesville, but we service Virginia, Maryland, New Jersey, New York, Washington, Oregon, Illinois, Colorado, and they have some sister companies in North Carolina and New Jersey as well.
Awesome. I love it. What is an unpopular opinion you have in the marketing world or a hot take of sorts? More controversial, the better.
Controversial. So I don't know about controversial, but I've been thinking about different things when it comes to what's going on in the world and hot takes and all this. And I think a lot of us when we got into quote unquote marketing, branding, that sort of thing, a lot of it was for like the creative side. Like I can say that for myself is that when you really started like going down this marketing career path, it's I want to make all these commercials and really do all this kind of like fun stuff with brands and logos and be memorable. But what I've seen sort of in my career, when you're able to kind of like take those next steps from like coordinator, manager, senior manager, director, vice president, the biggest leaps is when you can actually connect with finance. So
all the CFOs right now are having hearts shoot out of their eyes. They're like, finally, this is our moment.
Because I think like the transition is, you maybe start off into it to be creative and reach customers and sell products and do that kind of thing. But when you're talking about your own career and when you want to make leaps and bounds, you have to be able to not only communicate with finance, but also be able to relate with them and show that you have an understanding of what's important to them. So when they're talking about EBITDA or gross margin, above the line, below the line, P&Ls, all this kind of stuff, the higher you get in your career, the sort of larger your budget is in general. They're going to ask you tough questions where, brand awareness and touchy-feely stuff is great. And again, that's kind of like why some of us got into it. But they're going to want to ask you, if they give you X, what are you going to get for Y? And the best that you can communicate that by showing them, look, you're going to give me X for a marketing budget. I'm going to give you Y for revenue. Here's the gross margin on like a service or an install business, that sort of thing. The more you're able to relate to them and communicate with them, ultimately you're going to prove to them that you're able to get and handle more budget because you're going to be able to spend it wisely. So that sort of helps with the transition of marketing being thought of as an expense and more of an investment, where if you say, look, if you give me $1 by the end of the year, I'm going to give you 6 or more, that's all they want to hear. So I think sometimes, unfortunately, we kind of get in these fights about, hey, maybe, EBITDA is not where we want or profitability is not exactly where we want. Where can we cut? And I think as marketers, we sort of understand sometimes that marketing is sort of on the chopping block as the first thing people look at. But if you can show that, look, marketing is an investment, it's going to pay out this year, next year, whatever the model ends up looking, lifetime value, that sort of thing, they're going to be on the same team as you and it's going to be easier. So that's just sort of my overall thought process right now is, if you can communicate with the finance folks, you're going to be in good shape and not be having as many battles as if you're just sort of ignoring them and trying to pitch them only marketing dashboards or KPIs and things like that.
Yeah, should be a team sport for all of the disillusioned children or college students listening out there thinking of getting into marketing. It's far less Mad Men and more Excel spreadsheets, to your point, which I think I probably got into marketing back then thinking, yeah, I'm going to work with the coolest brands in the world and do all these cool things. So it still exists out there, but no, I think that's actually a very good just tactical, normal advice, because I see a lot of combative relationships in the C-suite between finance, procurement, CMO, VP of marketing, all that sort of stuff. And yeah, it really should be everybody should be, fiscally responsible stewards of the brand's budget. It benefits everybody.
Right, absolutely. And I think to kind of that point, when you're going through school, college, they have you work on these sort of creative campaigns, and I remember
they don't teach the math stuff.
No, like Excel. Well, this is I'm not going to exactly date myself quite yet, but when I was way back then, they maybe like a class or two on Excel, and the finance side was like one elective you had to take. And I actually got my minor in psychology because you're thinking like, oh, I want to understand the customer and how people think, which like sounds great, looks great on paper, but yeah, again, as you kind of progress, you really need that finance side to be able to communicate with across the entire suite, because profitability is sort of what kind of moves the train, what gets people going. So if you have that, those sort of like concrete answers as to what your marketing is going to produce, the rest of it's easy, right? That there's not as much like back channel things and things you have to worry about. It's like just very straightforward of like, this is what my marketing is going to produce.
I went into marketing because I suck at math, so that's why I'll never be a VP of marketing. To that end, I'm curious. You're currently VP of marketing at Door Pro America. What got you there? Tell us a little about the journey, and I'm particularly interested in what have you seen, in the realm of consumer behavior and how it's evolved over, the time period of you working in marketing.
Yeah, so I was, I kind of mentioned before, but I actually got my degree from the George Mason University, and
we got March Madness coming up.
That's right.
Best runs in the world.
I know, absolutely.
Final Four, they made it. Pops and Sabansu.
They made it to the Final Four a couple of years after I graduated, so that should date me a little bit there. But graduated with a marketing degree, and then got my first job at a local services company out this way, just as a marketing coordinator, like doing was really doing everything I ever wanted to do, direct mail campaigns, writing radio spots, TV commercials, all this kind of stuff. Had been there a while, then sort of evolved and got involved in more of the private equity backed companies, and sort of, very common, I think, transition right now, but you started that as sort of like local business, and then private equity backed and some investment in the marketing, growing the company, was where sort of like my background was and is right now. And as far as like, what's different then and now, even if you just talk a little bit digitally, I think back then, everyone was like, okay, well, we need to have like an about us section of our website. And we're going to talk about that we're family owned and all these associations and all these awards. And then we're going to have like a subset of our executive team and all this kind of stuff. And then when you come to 2026, that kind of like thought process is exhausting. Like nobody has the time to go on to a website and just read for like 30 minutes. It's not what consumer behavior is right now. It's almost that it started out with like, okay, well, we want to have these websites that are very in-depth and have all of this content, which would rank good for Google and that kind of thing. But now people's time is so short. People are just looking for shortcuts to make decisions. But that's the whole reason of like ChatGPT and other AI services right now is, hey, can you do like 95% of the work for me? I think right now that consumers are just overwhelmed with how much information and content that is out there. They just need like a way to like cut through the clutter, go to somebody that, for garage doors, for instance, you maybe have a neighbor who replaced it and you're having a similar problem. Say, hey, who did you use? Were they good? Did they have a good price? Like they're just looking for that shortcut to make a decision that they can trust, because it's people they just don't have the time. They don't have the bandwidth can you imagine like researching 5 or 6 different companies' websites for a decision that you're going to make? Of course not. You're going to like just reach out to your network.
You're giving the pitch for my own business. Right?
I know.
I'm even asking you for. I'm like, yeah, nobody wants to look up 100 agencies and see the same bullshit copy on the site of all the agencies saying we care, we don't have clients, we have partners, and yeah, they'd rather have a 20-minute conversation with me, hopefully, and get a couple intros shortly after. Right.
So you just go onto one of your social networks or just a chat group you're in or something to say, hey, does anybody have any restaurants for Valentine's Day? Or hey, I'm trying to, I'm going to a different city for vacation. Does anybody got any recommendations for restaurants? Like you just don't want to like sift through all that. I kind of make the recommendation or the comparison of when you're thinking about going to a restaurant, you just want to know what the menu is and what the hours are. You don't need to know like how the ribeye is, dried for however many years and that kind of stuff. You just want to like cut through. It's like, okay, that's supposed to be my price point. This is near where I'm going to stay. It's got a realistic rating and a number of stars. Like, I'm going to cut, like, that's good, and I'm going to stick with it, and that's it, instead of, like, again, the time of people just don't have it. There's just too much out there. They're very busy with their own lives or in work and whatever else is going on, that the easier you make that and just do a good job, you know, you're going to kind of cut to the front of the line a lot of the times, I think.
Yeah, it's exhausting out there for most folks to make decisions, decision fatigue.
Right.
What's your best piece of advice to other marketing leaders about how to, I'll say, how to thrive for the rest of 2026?
Sure. I mean, I think, you know, everyone talks about silos and different things, but what I've seen is that you really need to be involved in the operational side. Like, nobody is going to care about your leads more than you, right? So if you're just generating like paid search or Google LSA leads, and then you think that is the end of your job, you really need to go into the call center or the sales department and see how they're handling those leads. I mean, you want to make sure that they're booking them properly, you know, find out if there's any sort of like anecdotal or better evidence you can say where, hey, I've been sending you guys like all of these leads and the call booking percentage is low, like what's going on? I mean, there's things that you can find just by asking. So the more that you're involved in the operational side and not just stop once you hand off that lead, the better marketer you're going to be, the better, you know, the more leads you're going to be able to send, because you sort of understand that whole funnel instead of just pointing fingers when it gets slow for whatever reason, and sales is saying like, hey, where are our leads? And then say, oh, what are you talking about? I sent you X number of leads, like all these campaigns and all these marketing KPIs look great. Really got to dig into some of the details. I would say too that, you know, listening to calls, listening and understanding the customer journey can really help too. You know, if you're, again, picking up on things that you hadn't thought about when you put the campaign, or maybe there's something missing on the landing page, or the CSRs need a little bit more training, those things can really help the marketing campaign, the ROAS, and, you know, all of that. And then, again, to the original point, you're responsible as a marketer for all of those KPIs, so you need to follow it down the funnel. You don't want anybody sort of like reporting that back to you. The better grasp that you have on that whole funnel, the better off you're going to be.
Yeah, at the very end of this podcast, my final like real question will be what keeps you up at night and stresses you out, which I'll save. But I talk to a lot of, I'll say, just big franchise food companies, and many of those CMOs have come on here, and one of the most common answers I get around that is, yeah, that good marketing, any marketing can't, you know, outperform poor operations. You know, you can get people to come into a restaurant, but if they have, you know, a bad experience, you can get people to, you know, inquire about a garage door, but if the, you know, the call falls or installation sucks or like whatever the product is, the disconnect between marketing and operations is a real pain point that is not, you know, is something a lot of brands deal with. So that totally checks out.
Right, and I would say too, like, it's okay to fight for attribution, where if, you know, let's say you only get credit for that initial lead, but then the salesman 6 months from now upsells them to the bigger product, the SaaS or something like that. Who do you think got them that original lead? Was you. So it's okay to like fight and be a little bit selfish for attribution, because again, those are that's your marketing spend. You're the only one that's going to be accountable for how it performed. Yeah. It's okay to kind of like raise your hand a couple of times. And I would say too that I think everybody who's even ever been close to marketing has sort of gotten unsolicited or solicited feedback from other people, like, oh, have you tried this and that? To, you know, like, oh, I saw somebody do this, and they kind of give you ideas that maybe you weren't looking for, and it kind of like gets us angry sometimes. So there's a science too to working with operations in a call center before you kind of like jump into their arena or be like, why aren't you booking these leads? Like, you know, what are your people doing? You don't really want to go in guns blazing like that. You have to sort of have a measured, again, we're kind of all in this together. It's the best way it's going to work out if we're all working together, and not just like jump in and point fingers. It's like, hey, we need to make this whole funnel work, or we're going to be in trouble here. That's really like the key to all of this, is getting outside just of that marketing box, I think.
Sure. My favorite portion of this podcast, to be blunt, what's your LinkedIn inbox look like? As well as your email, your text, and everything. I find once you get to the VP level, everything explodes, and everybody thinks you're just sitting at your desk with a pile of cash ready to dole it out to agencies and vendors. So I'm curious, are you getting inundated with outbound and inbound every 12 seconds?
For sure.
Anything in the vein of, is there anything somebody can say to you when you're not in market that gets you, I don't know, on the phone with them?
You know, it's really just timing. Like, you just never know. Like, if you're going through a website audit or an agency audit on the digital side or creative or something, I would just say, like, you just never know when somebody's going to be in market. I would say too, like sometimes people get a little too cute for their own good, where you want to be quirky and maybe like stand out, but sometimes it just comes, I mean, for what the kids say, cringe, like it's just sometimes just like, okay, like that's like not even, that's like barely professional. So it's okay to like, it's okay to reach out and cold call, because how else are you gonna get business sometimes? But if you're just like a little too cute for your own good, it can really sour people. And then I think people still have to do their research, where I actually do forward it to my reps that I've had for a long time. But for me, you know, nothing drives me more crazy than when I get a cold email or a LinkedIn from a company I'm already doing business with, like another vendor, like a media partner or something. It's like, and you can tell they just filled it in from whatever AI chat they're using. Like, sure, guys, I spend like 10, 15 grand with you a month with my other rep that I've had for like 10 years. Like, can you maybe do just like a tiny bit more research?
Yeah, get it together.
Yeah, because it doesn't necessarily like make you feel valued as a customer if you're just like a name on their list that you're already paying them. Like what's kind of going on in the back end that way can sometimes be a negative. But you know, I think again, I would say like cold emailing and those things are okay. I think sometimes, you know, if you're able to track down somebody's phone, it's sometimes not okay just to call them, because then it's like going to your voicemail, then you're reading the transcript and all this kind of stuff. Like that can really like bog people down and be a negative too. So you should have at least like some sort of connection to the person before you're calling their cell phone and just like, oh, just check in. It's like, well, when did you have my cell phone? We probably would have connected some other time, and I wouldn't be ignoring your call, you know?
Yeah, I think that it's interesting. I see all over LinkedIn that cold calling is not dead, but you know I'm not the target for many of these things, but anytime I get a fair amount of cold calls, and I'm just immediate feeling of disgust every time it happens. I wish I wasn't like that. I honestly feel bad sometimes when I like don't pick up or hang up immediately, or I don't know who it's working for. So I agree. Know your audience as well. There are presumably some people out there who do want to get cold called and would rather do that. I'm all for the phone, but yeah, strangers calling my cell phone to sell me stuff feels odd in 2026.
Yeah, I mean, if it's like your desk phone and they got your work number off a directory, then that's acceptable. I think that's fine. But yeah, that's sort of like invasion of privacy is just sort of like, how did you get this number? And, you know, again, you're just immediately on the defensive if you're picking up the phone. This is kind of how it is. So
yeah. Can you think of a great agency experience you've had in the past and what made it so great? Anywhere along your career journey? Yeah,
I mean, definitely I've had, I'd say probably 50-50 good and bad. I'd say
well, you'll have a good answer for the next question, which is what was the worst one?
You know, I think the best companies, I mean, obviously it's not the company, it's the rep, right? It's like your project manager or whoever you're assigned to. And the more they understand the business, the better they are. So I think when they're really asking questions, when they're trying to get to the bottom of garage doors or HVAC, that kind of thing, you can kind of tell that they have like a vested interest, and they're not just like, oh, this is my 30-minute meeting that I got to get out of the way before I'm done for the week, that kind of thing. So the more they kind of understand, the better, because then when it comes to, you know, how they're suggesting you get more leads or change your approach, it's more than just budget. Like when things just whittle down to, oh, you know, things are slow, we need more leads. Oh, well, let's increase the budget. Like that's still like bare minimum of somebody. That's their last resort. They should be coming to you with, oh, I see your business is seasonal, or hey, I saw this new product out in your space. Like, have you guys thought about promoting this? That kind of thing. When they're like actively looking for ways to increase your business because they like truly understand it, that's where you're going to get the best bang for your buck. And I think that's where, you know, you get the best creative, you get the best strategy. That's really like where you're getting the best deliverables. I think is where the best agencies have succeeded that way.
Yeah, proactivity goes a long way.
Yeah.
Can you think of a specific negative experience? These are always the fun ones. What went wrong, and why is it the worst agency experience you've ever had?
You know, I find that, and look, like no company, no industry is perfect, but when an agency in particular has, you know, it's okay when people like leave jobs and they have to reassign you to a different rep, but when it's like every other month, it should raise 10 red flags that like, oh, you know, you had this, maybe this, you know, medium to senior level person was part of the sales process and you were sold that they're going to handle your campaign. Okay, 6 months after that, you're introduced to this like other person you never heard of, but they're going to catch up. And then a month after that, it's like a more junior person. And then after, like when it's that constant turnover, that is like, obviously there's something going on with the company, but you know, you're losing that sort of like just knowledge about your business and the campaign and what was successful and what have they done to make things better for you. Every time it gets handed off, the baton gets like shorter. It's just not as robust, and you're always playing catch up. And then it's just really just more transactional. I think maybe somebody could come along who's really good and kind of help things out. But again, once that sort of that flywheel of rep turnover keeps coming, I haven't really ever seen it turn around. It's usually like, okay, well, if you're just assigning somebody random to me because they may have loose knowledge, or they're just next up in the round robin order, that can be kind of a bad showing by the agency, and like how you're valued to them. It might be time to look elsewhere.
Yeah, a lot of agencies, I feel, do not handle the communication around that with the client super well, and don't get ahead of it, rather than 3 weeks prior saying, hey, this is happening and here's a transition plan. Like the day of or day before, they're like, Sarah's gone. This is Brad now, and they're like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
And the client feels caught off guard. So yeah, there's definitely an eloquent way to do that. But yeah, it sucks all around. It's one of the most common reasons people find me is so-and-so left, and I'm sick of people leaving and need a new agency now. So
yeah, definitely.
Agreed.
Yeah.
What are you most excited about in the marketing space at the moment? I've started saying not AI, anything but AI, just because I feel like everybody's a little excited about AI. So,
yeah, a little bit more to the point I had earlier, but I'm seeing like just the big ship turning of maybe getting back to basics, where again, there's so much information out there, so much AI, all this stuff, and that everybody's doing it. Can you cut through the clutter by getting back to something that you haven't done in years? So for instance, like in the home services space, back in the back in the 80s, even before then, but you had Yellow Pages. And then after that was Google. So everyone took all their Yellow Page money and then they put it in Google. And then Google got saturated, so then they put it in the LSAs. And now people are kind of saturated there, and you're kind of like looking for like what's next, when it might be direct mail or something print, or just something that not everyone has like moved away from.
What's an LSA?
Like Google LSA, local service ads.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, sorry.
No.
But like
I don't know all the anagrams either.
But like the industries, they all kind of move. Like there's some leaders who are out there and who are the first ones to do it. Like we had been doing OTT, connected TV. We probably started 8 or 9 years ago. And I had to tell people like, oh, like this is just streaming stuff like that's on. And then now everything's streaming. So I was, I don't know, people kind of talking with their friends, but streaming, the articles are out there, is how expensive it is at this point, that I think there's just almost momentum to go back to the cord because it's less expensive. Like you're not going to get everybody, not every demographic's the same, but can you be more efficient with some of your buy if everyone's doing streaming and maybe they're over-targeting? Can you get some customers who aren't streaming yet, or some who are going to go back to the cord or just watch broadcast TV, and you run your spots there because everything else has moved to connected TV? So just kind of a soapbox of, not shaking fists at a cloud, but can you get back to some things that maybe we haven't done in a while, because everyone is like still always like kind of crowding the same space. What can you do to like really stand out? It might just end up being placement, whether that's, radio, there's a lot of conversation about, but like billboards and print and all that, like people still look at that stuff, right? So,
sure.
You don't have to necessarily just copy your competition all the time. Like there's things you can do to really stand out, I think.
Yeah, I'm close to going back to the cord, largely because out of spite, maybe, because I find it insane the amount of things I need to watch all the stuff I once watched, particularly sports. I need like 27 different apps to watch my favorite team. So yeah, I think a robust media mix is more important now than probably ever, to your point of finding going back to basics, but also finding maybe like lesser known spots. A hotter topic these days in my world is like exploring Reddit and things like that. So yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Here's the final one I mentioned, or the final work one. What does keep you up at night or stress you out from a marketing or business standpoint?
I've always felt just kind of like personally responsible for how busy it is that way, no matter where I'm at. It's like when I hear things are things are slow, like, oh, we don't have enough leads right now, really just like keeps me up at night because, sometimes you have good reasons, but they don't necessarily have to be excuses. I mean, sometimes both things can be true, right? Where, if you're weather dependent, like an HVAC company, it's mild. I mean, yeah, people are not thinking about repairing or replacing their system, but there's still things you can do. But I've always like felt that it's marketing's job to like really like drive the whole company that way from a revenue standpoint. So if you're hearing from the call center, the technicians or people on the field, that kind of thing, that it's slow, like I always like just take that like really personally. So sometimes you really just like try to like get outside of your own box and, look at your calendar, your meeting mix, whatever you're doing, and like, okay, what else could we possibly be doing to really get things going? So that's like what really keeps me up at night, is really the responsibility of marketing's role in like driving the business and revenue. Because again, like where else is it supposed to come from, right? It should come from us, should come from on the marketing side.
Sure. No, it's good. It's good to care. I hope you sleep at night, though.
Yeah.
We will finish with a couple fun ones. What was your very first job?
My very first job was I worked at a pumpkin patch, and
Okay.
the only real responsibility they gave me was parking cars. So
Okay. Were you of legal driving age?
oh no. Oh, sorry. I was more like waving them in like an airplane mechanic guy.
Okay.
So like more just like making sure they could park close to each other so we could
Pumpkin patch controller.
Yeah, so maybe in my resume back then I said, maximize capacity by
I
parking
hope.
customers or something like that. But no, that was the first one, and did that for, I think, just the 1 year. But that was definitely something I tell kids about now, yeah, for sure.
I like that. What would your final meal be?
I'm on a constant lookout for just the best steak I can find. So girlfriend and I haven't necessarily created a food blog, but we try these places that are, they have like higher end steaks, and you're just trying to find the best one for the best value. So that'd be the final meal, is like the best steak I could possibly find, is what we're always on the hunt for.
One of my unpopular food opinions. I love to cook, and I love to cook steak, and I feel, not always, but generally underwhelmed or disappointed by like really expensive steakhouses.
Yeah, look, like, I mean, everyone's kind of got their talk about how expensive it is to go out to eat now, which is 100% true.
I just want to be wowed if I'm paying like $100 for a steak,
Right,
I want
yeah,
a sparkler coming out of it or something.
Right, I mean, you definitely want it to be worth it from that perspective. So if you're going to pay $50, $60, it better not be worse than the one that you picked up on the way home and kind of cooked and seasoned yourself. So I'm with you. So that's what we're always on the hunt for sure.
All right, we'll have to report back on that. My final question: who's somebody who inspires you personally, professionally, or both?
I really think it is family. Right now with my girlfriend and our kids,
It's coming up on Valentine's Day. You gotta say that.
I gotta say that.
Say, I'm like blinking. I'm like, blink if it's something. Yeah. I'm like, no. Say it. Say your girlfriend.
No, I think it's true though, because they kind of help you keep you grounded, right? Where it's what's really important in life and those sorts of things. Where if you're having a tailspin or you're not having a great week, generating leads, that kind of thing, can help you get grounded and kind of take you out from like maybe some of the negative thoughts you might have about sort of where you are position wise, that kind of thing. And I think also in particular it can help with being a sounding board, where you're just like listening, where somebody's just listening to you, like, oh, everyone kind of has run-ins at work every once in a while, right, where you're just telling them everything, to sort of like word vomit of like everything that's going on at work, and they don't have any context of anything about what Johnny or Susie are doing or anything like that, but you're just like, oh, we had this meeting, and then there's this, and they're just being able to get that off your chest. I really actually like do find like helps a lot, like just being able to like talk it through with people, and I think like that you can get it off your chest, take a deep breath, and then just sort of like be better the next day. I think is what it's all about for me.
I love it. Free therapy. Anything you'd like to leave the audience with about Door Pro America? Anything new coming out? Anything you want them to check out? When's the perfect time for them to seek out Door Pro America?
Anytime. Yesterday, today, tomorrow. Perfect
Love
time.
Okay.
There's all kinds of reports out there about how garage door replacement can be the #1 home improvement project from an ROI perspective, where you think about actually the surface area of the front of the house, how much the garage door actually takes up of it. So you can really get some good ROI if people are thinking about changing out their garage door because they're looking to sell their home soon. Obviously, Door Pro America is here to help, but that can really help the overall value of the home by replacing an older door. And imagine you go into a beautiful home and then the garage door is so loud, it sounds like a jet taking off, or there's like, just not looking very nice against the home. You changed out for some of the nice products that we have. It can really make an impact. So, marketing aside, I mean, I think there's something to be said of like, the garage door when you pull up is like something people would notice, especially if it looks bad. That can be something you really need to fix if you're looking to move or just upgrade the look of your home.
All right, awesome. Well, I'll flash your cell phone up on the screen for people to
Yes,
call
please.
you if they need a new
Please.
garage door.
After work,
You heard it
always,
here
please.
first. 24/7, 365, today or tomorrow. Call Eric.
Absolutely, yes.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining, Eric. This was awesome, and we will chat with you soon.
All right, sounds good. Thank you very much.
Thank you for checking out this episode of You Should Talk To. This show is brought to you by the company with the same name, You Should Talk To, a company that helps marketing leaders find the right agency or freelancer for their situation. If you enjoyed what you learned in this episode, make sure to follow You Should Talk To wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts, or visit youshouldtalkto.com for more information.